I understand the problem of censorship from the side of YouTube, and I would have never thought that I would have ever had anything similar to say on these lines. And here's my pinch of salt concerning this. Why and how YouTube are blocking channels, striking channels, placing videos under age block, and other censorship. The first problem is this. My channel, this one, which is almost 100% only in Czech, can be considered like my private living room. What I do on my channel is my thing. Somebody attacks me or attacks somebody else, I block them and I cancel them because I'm not a platform. And there is a limit to free speech even in my living room. Somebody walks into your living room and says, well, you've got a fat wife and I don't like the color of your curtains, and also does a little job on the carpet, they're not going to be welcome, right? The rules in my living room here on this channel apply to every one of you who've got their own living room. You've got a locked gate, you've got a garden, blah, blah, blah. Opposed to this, YouTube and all the other social media, years ago they told us all, oh, this is going to be freedom. You're all going to be free to express yourselves. Freedom of speech. You can say anything within some logical sense, within some common sense. You can't threaten somebody with physical violence. You shouldn't be racist. And I think this should apply like to a town square where you can go and protest. But if you start slagging off somebody in a way that you wouldn't do in a... Okay, let's take it somewhere else. Let's say we're all sitting in a pub. There are some things that you wouldn't go up to somebody and say to them in a pub because you know that there could be a conflict. And this is common sense. Now, obviously, some people are misusing this common sense and go over certain lines, but now these lines have become very foggy because we're not talking about censorship only on the lines of, you know, threatening violence or racism. We're talking about censorship about not holding the mainstream political views, the fashion of that day. We had the fashion of that day when there were the elections, Trump and Biden, where people couldn't mention the famous Hunter Biden laptop. Then we had the Chinese flu, where people couldn't say, well, it didn't come from Wuhan, but it came from a bat. Then we had the censorship where people couldn't say, well, I don't really agree with wearing masks. And now we have very brutal censorship that if anybody says anything as to the tone of saying, well, you've got to look at a little bit of history concerning Ukraine and Russia to at least understand a little bit both sides, that's not allowed. And then I won't even go into the fact that basically up to a little while ago, you weren't allowed to say, well, if somebody thinks that a transgender is just that there's two sexes, male and female, and you can't say that men can menstruate and that we have people who bleeders, it's women who have their menstruation. And this is all becoming muddled. Now, I understand YouTube. And the problem is that all this, basically YouTube is aiming to not allow any, once again, I repeat, we're not talking about racism. We're not talking about threatening somebody with violence. They're not allowing any common sense political speech. And the reason is, it's overtaking YouTube with all the complaints they're getting. The YouTube algorithm is set in such a way that if you say certain words or even if you put a certain photograph, and that's happened to me, I had 6 or 7 photographs of the EU flag, you know, the blue flag with the stars, and I just did a graphic where on each star I put the Russian symbol, the German symbol, don't think I can even say it here, and then the EU symbol. YouTube's algorithm analyzed that photograph and said, oh, he's got a swastika on there. So I did appeal this, and then it went to my advantage because that's ridiculous, because the whole point of putting all those communist and Nazistic symbols there was to show the point about freedom of speech. I was in no way showing a swastika saying, oh, I'm a Nazi or something. So the YouTube algorithm is something. If somebody else complains about your video, and YouTube have a problem because, as I said, this channel is in Czech. Now, Czech is not such a diffused language as English or English or English. So then YouTube have to put on somebody who has to listen to a video. And I've gone so far as to whisper in Czech in one of my last videos. And there's no way their algorithm can read that. So they have to put a humanoid who has to listen to it and then decide according to his common sense, under not many fixed rules, whether my video should be banned or not. Now, where I'm leading with all of this is that obviously YouTube is slowly coming to the conclusion this is not worth the bother. We'll just end up having here young girls who are showing how to do their makeup and how to put banana skin on their faces and how to cut nails and animal videos, and people who are selling cars, and it's not worth it having political videos because people will complain about political videos. My main question on this is, though, how far will this go? In one of my previous videos, just to make an example, just to show the point, I did put a snippet of World Wrestling where two women are basically beating each other. Yeah, we all know it's for show, but kids at school see that and then they try to copy it in school. The World Wrestling Confederation, whatever they're called, that they put a claim, and by the way, I'm not putting ads on this, I'm not monetizing any of my videos here. I might this one. So they put a claim on it. So you can't put claim on it because I'm using it for educational purposes to make a point. If you can show violence where two women are beating each other up, how can you block somebody else who simply says something political where there is no violence? So the tendency now is that YouTube will slowly phase out all political stuff. Then I wonder how they're going to phase out all the violent clips of films, Hollywood films and movies that I love. You know, people shooting and blowing each other up. Is that going to be censored? There's a channel now, I don't remember what the name is, but they have clips. They have video clips. It's one of the biggest ones around. You've probably run into them. I think it's called Binge Society. They've actually started to beep out all the rude words that Bruce Willis and Clint Eastwood and Mark Wahlberg and whoever, whatever film, you know, when they say, well, I think you should go and F yourself, there's a beep. I think you should go and beep. I mean, this is crazy. And I'm just really wondering how far YouTube are going to take this. Now, the main problem for content producers or creators, as they call us, me, is that there are no fixed rules. You've had people on YouTube who've just spoken about somebody else's video, which is on YouTube. Their video was blocked, but the other video they were talking about has got millions of hits. And this is where I think Elon Musk, I hope he does it, that he will open the Twitter algorithm for the world to see, right? Open source. Sounds technical, but open source means, because I've asked the people who try and block my channel here, you know, they're English, but I had a couple of emails with the sort of a bit higher levels. And I said, well, could you give me a list of the bad words that I can use? Because in English, you can use words like the F word, like the C word, like the sh word, but in Czech apparently you can't. And they weren't able to give me a list of what's forbidden. So YouTube creators like me, well, I'm just an idiot who puts up videos about my opinions and sort of trying to filter for the Czech-speaking people what's going on in the world. This channel mostly deals with international politics, not with Czech politics, because Czechs don't speak English. Well, they do, but they don't speak English well enough to be able to follow a whole snippet of news. Sometimes, or very often, I just filter what the news in English was. So, first of all, there are no guidelines. And I'll be very interested to see what sort of guidelines they put up concerning the violent videos. You know, you've got people like beating each other up, or, you know, the famous fails videos where somebody is on a skateboard and smashes his face on a piece of concrete. I've got no problem with that, but I don't understand why YouTube have a problem in making a difference between that and something else which is completely innocuous. So in my own personal, small, non-important opinion, I think YouTube will slowly phase out politics because they make more money from, as I said, they make more money from somebody who shows you how to cook cucumbers. You've got 10 million views and there's ads through the whole video every 30 seconds. Then from somebody who's talking about the actual present war conflict, and they don't give them any ads on there because it's not appropriate for the general public. And this is the main problem in conclusion. The most dreaded sentence that you can read on any social media is, your content has been evaluated as if it could offend the views or the feelings of some viewers. Because this is where we have the problem of Article 132, or what's it called in America, where they said, well, if you're going to be a platform, you're not going to be a newspaper, you're going to be a platform where you have people expressing their opinions. So you have various financial conditions which are positive for you, but you have to decide, are you a platform or are you an editor? YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram are not classified as editors. So basically, at the end of the day, all I'm saying is, on my channel, and I say this quite often, I'm a dictator. I'm not going to be having any comments here where you offend me or somebody else. They get monitored, they get deleted, they get blocked, those people. But this is my living room. If YouTube were tomorrow to say, right, listen, there's no rules here, this is not an open platform, we'll just be cancelling people even if they say something that they couldn't ever imagine that would be against the rules, we'll just do it and nobody can complain. I could live live with that, because then I would know that all I had to do was start a channel on how I don't know, shave my legs, probably, and they would put some ad revenue onto a video where I'm just showing how a man shaves his legs. Just the fact that I have to talk about this in 2022, I find that completely atrocious. And we have one last thing. People say, well, go and create your platform. Go somewhere else. Fine, well, we have other places where people can go and put their videos. The only problem is that they're all echo rooms. I don't want to be putting my political videos on Rumble or somewhere else where there's other people who have the same political views. I would like to put them in a platform, or on a platform, where there are people who disagree with me. Well, I call it a sort of intellectual opinion confrontation.